UFC 289 and their return to Canada is in the books. After their first return in nearly 4 years to the country, the UFC built a card full of Canadian talent, headlined by the GOAT of MMA, Amanda Nunes. This card's original main event fell through and had Irina Aldana headline alongside Amanda Nunes. So did this card give the Canadian fans what they wanted, after they waited 4 long years without a pay-per-view? Let's find out. This is the Fight franchise and the recap and review of UFC 289. The card and the early prelims began with a fun bout, with 2 up-and-coming women's strawweights, with Diana Belbita versus Maria Oliveira. The two fought in a fun fight with some good striking shown by Belbita, and also some great work in the grappling as well. Diana Belbita secured a brilliant unanimous decision victory, and I can't wait to see more of her in the octagon. The next fight was a fun fight at flyweight, with short notice Steven Erceg taking on David Dvorak. With some fun back and forth action with both men having success in the octagon, Erceg landed the more significant and damaging shots and had the bigger moments in the fight, securing the decision victory. That would bring the end to the early prelims. The prelims began with Canadian Carl Nelson taking on Blake Builder. This was a fun standard fight with some good exchanges on the feet, with even a low blow at one point with the ref didn't stop the fight. Nelson was too much for Builder and earned the decision victory for the Canadian people. The next fight had one of the best moments of the night, with Aitman Zahabi taking on Aoichi Long. The fight would only last 1 minute, with Zahabi faking the takedown and landing a huge left hook, which dropped Aoichi Long, where Zahabi finished him with strikes to give his hometown crowd something to shout about. This fight did see Aoichi Long after the KO prepared to come out for the second round, as he was dazed and confused, just showing how vicious the KO was. This was definitely a highlight of the night. The next fight would be a women's flyweight bout between Jasmine Jasdavicius versus Miranda Maverick. The fight was back and forth on the feet and on the ground, with Jasdavicius reversing a takedown and landing some good ground and pound. Overall close fight where Jasdavicius got the decision victory. The next fight would be a fun fight at middleweight, which would be spoiled by an unfortunate ending. Nasruddin Imavov took on Chris Curtis, where Imavov showed some slick striking and grappling to secure the first round. The second round, Imavov did more of the same until both men in close range went in for strikes and clashed heads, with Curtis getting the worst end of it. Curtis would be cut above the eye and would plead with the ref to give him some time so he could fight, but the doctor came in and waved it off as a no contest, which was the right call. Curtis is a true warrior for wanting to continue, and Imavov hopefully can bounce back after his unfortunate loss to Sean Strickland, and now this. Let's hope we get another fight card in France, which Imavov can go on this year. This brought a sour end to some decent prelim action. The main card began with another Canadian, Marc-Andre Barriault taking on Eric Anders. The Canadian scored a brilliant knockdown in the first 30 seconds of the fight, which set the tone for a super fun fight. Both men traded huge shots in a super fun fight, which was back and forth, where Barriault seemed to be more crisp of the two, landing the more significant and impactful strikes. Barriault would win the decision victory in a hard-fought battle, which was an awesome fight which also won the fight of the night. What followed this was another fun fight at featherweight between Dan Ige and one of the fun fighters to come out of last year, Nate Landwehr, who had one of the fights of the year last year. This was Nate's chance at a real legit contender and a staple of the featherweight division. However, Dan Ige was too much and too experienced for Nate to handle, landing some brilliant shots to the body and head, dropping Landwehr at the end of the first and second round. They would fight back and forth in the third round, but overall Dan Ige did enough to secure the decision victory. Hopefully the UFC book Nate in some fun fights going forward, as he makes for some entertaining viewing when fighting. After losing 3 in a row, Dan Ige is on a 2-fight win streak. Let's hope he can go on a run and secure some more victories from here. The next fight saw an up-and-coming Canadian from Dana White's Contender Series, Mike Maylott, taking on Adam Fugit. Maylott would land some brilliant body kicks in the first round, which hurt Fugit, but couldn't finish Fugit in the first round, failing to get that killer shot, ending the round on top. The second round, Maylott landed some more brutal body kicks, and then dropped Fugit with his hands, and while they were on the ground, Maylott secured the guillotine choke to get the huge hometown victory. You can see the UFC wants to make Mike Maylott the next big Canadian star. Let's see if he can get some more big wins and see if his trajectory keeps going up from here. Next up was the co-main event, and definitely the people's main event. The ultra-competitive lightweight division had a matchup which had huge implications on the title picture. Charles Oliveira, after his loss of his world title, would come back against the ultra-tough and game Beneil Dariush, who was on an 8-fight win streak and on the verge of a title shot. The fight would be a 1-round masterpiece of pure entertainment, with both men going back and forth, with Beneil pushing the pace and clinching Oliveira, where Oliveira pulled guard, which is when Beneil, on top of Oliveira, tried to land huge punches, with Oliveira landing landing strikes from bottom. Oliveira threatened with a heel hook, which Dariush wiggled out of. Both men would be back on their feet where Oliveira threw a huge head kick, stunning Dariush, and would follow up with punches, dropping Dariush, which is when Oliveira would get on top of Beneil, landing huge strikes to earn the amazing TKO stoppage. This was the biggest moment of the night, with the Canadian fans going wild. The post-fight speech and scenes were amazing. Seeing Oliveira get emotional on top of the cage was a sight to behold. Oliveira has seemingly locked himself a world title shot, which the UFC will most likely look to book in Abu Dhabi for the second time versus Islam Makhachev. However, I would love to see the winner of Poirier and Gaethje get the next shot. And before you go crazy, hear me out. Give Oliveira a title shot and the opportunity to headline in Brazil. Islam has already hosted Oliveira in his de facto hometown of Abu Dhabi. Let's give Charles the opportunity to face Islam in his hometown of Brazil. As for Beneil, it is a real shame he never got the title shot sooner, as he was on an amazing win streak. But this lightweight division is a shark tank and unforgiving. Let's hope he recovers and gets a big fight, as there are many great matchups in this stacked lightweight division. The main event saw the GOAT of MMA, Amanda Nunes, defend her title against Irina Aldana after Juliana Pena had to pull out due to an injury. This fight was another dominant performance and masterpiece you can add to the collection of Amanda Nunes performances. Amanda Nunes was just too good for Irina Aldana and beat her comfortably in the octagon. This fight was massively let down, however, by Irina Aldana, who just wasn't active enough in there, barely throwing punches, trying to counter-strike and throwing little to no volume. This was a real letdown by Aldana, who had huge inspirations from her fellow Mexican UFC fighters who had just become champs like Moreno, Rodriguez, and especially Alexa Grasso. The fight would be an easy 5-round domination for Nunes as she successfully defended her belt. The biggest talking point of the fight, however, would be what happened after. Amanda Nunes would lay both her belts and her gloves in the octagon and call it a day on her career, retiring from the sport of MMA. This was quite a sad but bittersweet moment. Seeing a true legend of MMA call it a career was an iconic moment. Amanda Nunes gave us some legendary moments and performances in the octagon and will go down as the greatest women's MMA fighter of all time, and is in the conversation for even the greatest MMA fighter of all time, regardless of gender. This brought a nice end to an okay pay-per-view. Overall, this card was okay and helped build some Canadian talent and showcase them in front of their hometown. However, the card mainly under-delivered, with some lackluster fights, the accidental clash of heads between Chris Curtis and Imavov and the 5-round shutout in the main event really dampened this card. But credit to some of the fighters who put on some amazing battles, and Ayman Zahabi, who secured a brilliant KO, and also Charles Oliveira, who put on a fun fight and amazing performance. And to see the GOAT of MMA retire was an iconic moment. Overall, this card gets a D-, a pretty harsh score for the pay-per-view, but it just lacked that star power who put on some real entertaining fights, which would help send the Canadian crowd wild. The pay-per-views I have been saying in my pay-per-view reviews have been getting worse, but we are in for a treat in July with 2 pay-per-views, the Giant International Fight Week card and the Mad BMF title main event card in Salt Lake City. I can't wait for these pay-per-views, which look like they are going to be fireworks. Did you enjoy the video? Let us know down in the comments below. What was your review of UFC 289 and what was your favourite moment? Put that down in the comments below. And who do you think will be the next women's bantamweight champion? Put that down in the comments below. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video and subscribe for more fight content and MMA content coming soon. We hope you enjoyed the video and we'll catch you in the next one.